Okay, good morning. I think we should start. I note that there are still people who are joining. So just so that we don't run out of time, I would suggest that we get going. Good morning to everybody. Good morning to all the participants that have gracefully joined us this morning. My name is Anastasia Mashobane, and I am the CEO of Mashobane Advisory Services. And with us this morning, we have a panel of very distinguished guests. We actually are continuing this conversation from the discussions that we had at the previous Skills Development Summit that was held by the Leadership magazine. So after that session, we realized that we had not actually finalized, our discussions, as we left people with some questions still on the chat box. So we thought, you know what, let's just create more time and just see how we can actually take this discussion and finalize it, and also maybe get some more in-depth discussions going. So before I get into the announcements and how the day will be running, as is custom with our webinars, I read a bit of inspiration every morning. Yeah, so here it goes. So this morning I'm reading from Oprah's book, The Path Made Clear, and this was written by Michael Bernard Beckwith. It says, potential is always bigger than the problem. Your potential is infinite and is always bigger than whatever problem you're going through. And your life begins to be okay when you wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to walk in the direction of my purpose. I'm going to walk in the direction of my vision. You're being pulled by more than joy. You're being pulled more by joy. That doesn't mean you're not going to have challenges. You're not praying to have a challenge-free life. We're praying that the challenges that come will activate latent potential. You begin to see, you begin to visualize the kind of life that you want to live. You begin to write it down. You begin to dream about it, and then you talk about it. It doesn't mean you talk to everybody, because everyone is not trustworthy. You talk to selected friends. You actually talk to the vision. You talk to the possibility. You talk to love. You talk to peace. You talk to it. And then after a while, you're talking from it. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panelists. First up, we have Yvette Hardy from ACITEJ. She's my fellow board member. She will be leading our discussions. Good morning, Yvette.
Morning. How are you this morning, Anastasia?
I'm perfect. I actually slept for 12 hours, believe it or not. I just passed out on my couch and that was it. So I'm super. I've got energy for 2 days now. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here this morning.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Yvette. I'm the director of ACITEJ South Africa, which is an organization that deals with theatre and performing arts for children and young people. And ACITEJ is part of a global network of centres. We have over 100 centres across the world. And for the last 10 years, I've been serving as president of that international organization. So my real passion is around children and young people and their access to the arts. And what I'll be speaking about in our presentation today is really about what the arts can do for building leadership capacity, and what ACITEJ South Africa has been doing in terms of readying young people to take their place as future leaders. I don't know if you want to go into introducing the other panelists before I present Anastasia. So I think I'll just leave it there for now. But I look forward to talking to you all in the session.
Muted. We need to get used to this mute and unmute buttons. Thank you so much, Yvette. And then our next panelist is someone who I fondly call Dr. P. It's Dr. Molokwane. Doctor, please, will you just say hi to everyone and tell us why you are here this early in the morning?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pulani Molokwane. I am a nuclear scientist by training. Today, what I'm going to share is just the gaps of women in the STEMI, and how the one example is how mentoring and mentorship can actually encourage young women to join and study STEMI and be in the field. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor. Then our next panelist who will be speaking is Mr. Ellis Lavemba. Ellis, what's your story? Why are you here so early?
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ellis Lavemba. I am a CEO of a agricultural incubator. So we in agriculture, we wake up very early. So we've been up already 6 cracking, have to irrigate our fields here. My contribution to this discussion would be, how can we from the agricultural sector create much needed employment, allow mentorship, and how we bring the science and the manufacturing of high-end products into the value chain of agriculture, demonstrating to people how they can go from plant to product, hoping that they will not just looking for employment, but become employers themselves. That would be my major contribution this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice, and I hope your farm reception holds up this morning because I know that you're living very far from us, but yeah, but welcome. And then last but not least, Mr. Mabete, please tell us why you're up so early and what your contribution is going to be. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lungile Mabete. I'm an attorney by profession, and my contribution this morning is more about policy and legal framework in the skills development space that provides or should provide the be an enabler to both the employers as well as those who are looking for opportunities for skills development and mentorship in the space. And maybe lastly, I've been involved in the skills development space for some time, including in the development of the, in fact, in the development of the governance framework for the SETAs under National Skills Development Strategy 3, NSDS 3, 2011, up until now that has been recently replaced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mabete, for that introduction. So as is norm with our webinars, we usually have them at the Grill Room and Sushi Bar in Brooklyn every morning. But due to the level 4 restrictions, we were not able to broadcast from our usual venue. And it's because we want to make sure that everybody is safe and that everybody adheres to the regulations, you know, and that we are able to come out of this COVID pandemic stronger as a nation. So without further ado, I would like to lead us into the discussion. So the format today will be each panelist will have a chance to speak for about 20 minutes. And thereafter, we open the floor for Q&A. And then we also want to discuss next steps, because this panel has been engaging outside of, you know, just being panelists, but putting heads together to see what it is that we can do as a collective to actually, you know, make sure that this important subject of skills development and mentorship, you know, assists South Africa to actually get to a point where we can actually generate jobs and start thinking outside of the box. So without any further ado, I will hand over then to Yvette to take us through. Yvette, you may go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm just going to need to have permission to share my screen, Marla, if you wouldn't mind.
Are you sorted, Yvette?
Not yet. There we go. There we go. All right.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. Let me just start this. Right. I hope everybody can see that. So I think for some of you, you're not coming necessarily from an arts background, and perhaps this is a surprising place to start. But in my view, it's the logical place to start, because the arts are in fact an inherent part of all of us. And I sincerely believe that the arts are very much part of the answer to 4IR readiness for South Africa's youth. In other words, their capacity to be able to engage with the challenges of the fourth industrial revolution, and with the challenges of the workplace. So I want to introduce you to someone who you may already know, because she's pretty famous for a young under 30-year-old. Her name is Kaleka Patuma, and this is one of her quotes from her poetry: "You owe your dreams your courage." This phrase is in fact tattooed into her skin now. She is a 28-year-old poet who has quite literally taken the world by storm. She collected a collection of poetry called Collected Amnesia, which she published at the age of 24. And it's become a bestseller in South Africa. It's now on its 12th book run, and it's been translated into 6 languages. And her poetry has really captured the zeitgeist of young South Africans, and particularly, of course, young Black women. And I think that this quote is so apt for what we're going to be talking about today, because when we're thinking about skills development and mentorship, we need to be developing the skills and mentoring young people to equip them to realize their dreams and to be able to courageously face whatever challenges they may encounter. Now, as I spoke about in the introduction, ASATEJ is a child and youth organization. And we're constantly asking this question: what are young people dreaming of? And how can we help them realize these dreams within the current environment? And as you can see from this slide, the current environment is, as we all know, a very challenging one. The 2 most burning issues, I believe, that we have right now, which have been further exacerbated by the COVID pandemic, are, of course, unemployment, which in the first quarter of 2021 rose to 32.5%. And it's the highest level since comparable data began in 2008. And meanwhile, youth employment, 15 to 24 years, hit a record high of 63.3%. And these figures, I think, are very strongly linked to the state of our second time bomb, which is ticking away and which is also in a very difficult place, which is education. Now, despite the National Development Plan identifying education as the key engine for transformation, our education system has simply not provided this transformative space. And this has been further exacerbated by a lack of stimulation in the early years. So generally, our early year education system is very poorly provided. Secondly, as a result of that, very poor school preparedness. And then while most children can access school in South Africa, our figures are quite good compared to other countries on the continent, for example. We have almost 98% of young people accessing school. At least 40% of those learners will drop out before grade 12. And this has worsened during COVID. Analysis, which is still being collated on the research that is going on at this time, is suggesting that the ratio of learning losses to lost schooling days is as much as 1 to 5. In other words, that is to say that the actual number of school days lost underestimates the amount of learning lost. That we have 5 times as much learning loss as we have school days lost. This is a very, very worrying statistic, and we need to be doing more than just play catch up in this particular context. Basically, what this is saying is that as a result of COVID, inequality is deepening. And while there are some common challenges across the country, obviously there are many differences which map onto and worsen the existing social inequalities. And so those children and young people, those households, those schools that were already vulnerable pre-COVID are the ones that are being worst affected by the lockdown. And we need to find ways to build resilient support systems around children and young people. But in the face of all of this, of course, the world is changing very rapidly. We are already in the fourth industrial revolution, and yet we are profoundly unprepared for it. In the recent report by the 4IR Commission to the President, the following areas have been emphasized. You can see them on the screen. These are the 9 pillars of the fourth industrial revolution. But underlying all of this, and one of the most important things to come through in that report, is a focus on human capital. In other words, we are not going to be able to access these 9 pillars unless we are developing our human capital. Now, why are the arts at the heart of preparing for 4IR? So these are the before I go on to that, these are the critical issues around human capital. Let's just have a look at them for a moment. So one of the things that the report brings out is that there needs to be a focus on STEAMy. So you might have heard of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but in fact, the new buzzword is STEAMy, and you can see that arts sits in the middle of that word. And also we've got the addition of innovation and entrepreneurship. And this is really where the focus needs to be. One of the things that the 4IR Commission is also speaking about is that we need to be engaging with the creative sector to integrate the arts and education as proposed by this report. And that we need to have rapid skills interventions to train educators, trainers, and users. So let me go back to that question that I was asking a moment ago. Why the arts? Why are they so important? Why are they at the middle of this word STEAMy? Well, the 10 most critical skills that are needed for the fourth industrial revolution are in fact best served by practicing and experiencing the creative arts. So whether we're talking about the capacity to work as an individual or to work in a team, to communicate, to collaborate, to problem solve, critical thinking, creative thinking, emotional intelligence, all of the things that are absolutely fundamental to our capacity to engage with the fourth industrial revolution, these are best served by the arts. Here you can see the top 10 skills needed for the 4IR economy. And these are all things that, in fact, the arts can help us understand and address. They are, in fact, the way that we learn these skills naturally. If you think about children playing, if you think about very young children playing, you will see that they are using their play, which is in a sense a building block to the art forms, to problem solve, to think critically, to understand other people, to manage other people. I'm sure you would have, if you've noticed how children play, you'll notice how they start to engage with one another in terms of creating hierarchies and rules for engagement, in order to understand emotional intelligence. So all of these things are developed, in fact, best through an arts-based learning methodology. So how can we equip young people with the necessary tools and support to find the self-confidence and the courage to be able to commit to their dreams when they're being failed on so many levels? And I think that we need to be looking at the creative economy to find the answer to this question. The creative economy is not a small part of our bigger economic picture. As you can see from this slide, we've got 1.136 million of us who come to work daily, who contribute 1.7% to the GDP. And in fact, pre-COVID, the creative industries economy was growing at an average rate of 2.4% per annum, which is a much higher rate of growth than many of the other industries. You can see on the right-hand side of this slide what the creative industries covers, and it's a vast space. And what you can also see is that education and training, in fact, cuts across all of the different cultural domains. So education and training is kind of basic to the creative economy. So what do we know about the current provision of creative arts within our education system? Well, in fact, like in many other areas of South Africa, we have great policies. We do have a policy which makes the creative arts compulsory for all children. So within the foundation phase, grade R to grade 3, there is compulsory creative arts, which is integrated into basic foundational knowledge and life skills. At the intermediate phase, grade 4s to 6, we have a compulsory 1.5 hours a week of creative arts as a part of life skills. In senior phase, there's a compulsory 2 hours of creative arts, and there learners are expected to do 2 different disciplines, art, dance, drama, or music. And then at the FET level, we've got a range of subjects, which can include visual arts, design, dance, dramatic arts, and music. And this curriculum deals with a lot of different areas, which include appreciating and reflecting on performances and artworks, engaging in artistic processes, improvising and creating, reading, interpreting, and performing the arts, languages, and it addresses most of the critical skills for 4IR. I know this from my own experience because I've been one of the policy developers for the curriculum, and it was also part of the team developing the previous arts and culture curriculum under OBE. So I know very well what these curriculum frameworks are putting in place in schools. However, the reality is that while we have this policy, practice does not in fact follow policy. And for the most part, our teachers are unfortunately not equipped to deliver on this very progressive creative arts policy. Some of the reasons for this are that there is a lack of cohesive thinking and planning and skills development and mentorship for creative arts implementation. So most of the teachers who are currently in our system were not themselves trained in the creative arts. Or if they have been trained in the creative arts, perhaps they've only been trained in one of the creative arts. And so they don't feel confident to teach the other art forms competently. On the other hand, we have a huge body, as you saw from that previous slide, of artists in the creative sector who are experts in their art form, but these people are not necessarily equipped to teach, or they do not know how to teach a generalist curriculum. So in other words, they may be a fantastic dancer, they are very specialized in terms of dance, but they don't know how to teach the creative arts, which deals with all the art forms, and it looks at those ways that those art forms can be used across a more general curriculum. So often what happens with artists in schools programs, and there are some government run programs which are linked to artists in schools, is that when the artist leaves the school environment, the arts stop happening. And this can be very wasteful in terms of expenditure because you put a lot of money into the program, but in fact, it's a very stop-start kind of program. Another issue is that, as you saw from those summary, the amount of time in the curriculum given to creative arts is still very small. So we only have 2 hours at maximum in the week for the creative arts to happen. And of course, if people don't understand why the creative arts are important in the first place, and if they themselves have had no experience of the creative arts, then they tend to deprioritize the arts. So very often, the art set periods are used for catch up for other subjects, or teachers use them as the time that we're going to clean the classroom, or this is the time that we're going to go over our tests, or whatever it is. So other things push the creative arts out of the classroom. Further, we really need a community of support to understand the value of the arts, because if principals don't understand why the creative arts are important, or HODs, or parents, or even other teachers, they can see the arts as a kind of unnecessary add-on to the curriculum, rather than seeing them as what I believe they are, which is in fact absolutely fundamental to our basic capacity to be able to learn how to learn. So in other words, they are a basic building block for all learning. So there's a huge need for artist facilitators, for teaching artists, and for arts professionals to bring arts experiences to the schools and for schools to visit the arts. Now, how does this link into skills development and mentoring? Well, on the one hand, what we're talking about is that we need artists to be bringing creative arts as methodology for educational purposes into schools and into after schools programs. But these artists need to be, in fact, developed. They need to be given the skills to be able to apply their particular creativity and expertise within an educational environment. Secondly, teachers need to be developed in terms of acquiring the skills needed to be able to teach creative arts confidently, or at least to be able to facilitate creative arts confidently. And they should be able to use the creative arts as an intrinsic part of all learning for the creative arts and across the curriculum. And then, of course, children and young people themselves need to be given the skills so that they can start to develop their full potential as human beings and as learners. This is synergistic with the mentoring because you can develop the skills, but if you don't have a mentorship environment, which is enabling, which is non-judgmental, which is about building confidence, a sense of ownership, which is about supporting resilience and the longevity of programs, which is about combating school dropout, and which is about creating a supportive environment around the skills development, then you will not see the kinds of results that you might want. So for me, these two elements are absolutely essential and they need to both be there. You can't have the one without the other. We've seen too many skills development programs for the arts in schools, which are short-term programs that bring in a little injection of the arts into the curriculum, but then there's no mentorship that wraps around that and that ensures that the teachers will continue to use what they have learned in the longer term. So what does Asset South Africa do in this regard? Well, one of our key programs is called Kickstarter Educational Empowerment. And it's been the source of research over the last 5 years. And we've seen the most extraordinary results through this program. Essentially, what we do is we train teachers directly. We also train artists based in the locations where the teachers and schools are based to be able to work in the schools, and we provide that mentorship environment that I was describing over a 2-year period to the teachers and the artist facilitators to work together. Here you can see some of the workshops. So you can see the teachers are engaging with the artists, and you can see in the bottom right-hand corner that the trickle down is happening, that the children are doing arts activities within the school environment. A second program that we have been involved with, which has also been a very transformational program, is called After School Game Changer. This is a provincial program, so it's a Western Cape-based program, which the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports created. And I think it's a real model for every province to take up, in that what it does is it empowers all those young people who are working in NGOs or in after-school programs attached to schools in the skills to run those after-school programs efficiently and effectively. It gives them the skills to empower the arts more fully. It helps them become more skilled across the various disciplines, but it also supports them in running after-school programs. If we could make this program a national program, as Kickstarter is already starting to be a national program, I think we would see tremendous results because children would be getting the arts not just within the curriculum, as I've already outlined, but also they'd be getting more time in the arts in the afternoons, and that time would be well spent. The other area of intervention that Asset South Africa has been very engaged in is in ensuring that the early years, that our very young children get access to the arts. So here we're talking about the creches, the kindergartens, the spaces, many of them which are even outside of the Department of Social Development. Some of them are not registered spaces. Many of these spaces are places where the adults who are leading the programs themselves don't have a lot of background in terms of early childhood development. And we develop artistic products that can tour into these spaces and that can really engage the children with the arts and with unlocking their curiosity. Because one of the fundamental building blocks for learning is being curious about the world around you. And what the arts do is they inspire that curiosity, and they give you the tools to want to explore further. So these are some of the interventions that ASATER South Africa has been engaged with. And we've seen, as I said, some really amazing results. So from our Kickstarter program, for example, we've seen how that has revolutionized the teacher-student relationship. It's often impacted on the entire school environment, creating an arts-rich school where the school before had no history in the arts. We have schools in the Free State which have become the leading school for the arts in their district and in their province, winning all sorts of competitions because of their engagement with the Kickstarter program. And the end result of that is not just that they become strong art schools, but that in fact we start to address some of those other problems, for example, dropout. So what we see over and over again is that schools where the arts are implemented become schools that children want to attend. Children are excited to be there. And in fact, that then impacts across the entire learning spectrum. In the spaces where we have the after-school programs, we see that young people have ongoing spaces for inspiration and support, and that they are taken off the streets, that they now have meaningful activity to do in their leisure time. And in the places where we see these early years interventions, we have children who are introduced to critical and creative thinking from the youngest possible age. So really, those three interventions that I've described are, in my view, key to addressing the entire ecosystem of the education space. So we need to be finding ways to intervene through workshops, teacher training, through pre-service and in-service training, and through engagement with unemployed youth and with artists across the country in activating what the potential is for a network nationwide of people who are equipped to ensure that our youth can have access to the arts. I believe that if we are able to do that, in the face of poverty, we will create arts and culture programs that can find ways to overcome the poverty of imagination and can build those critical, creative, and other kinds of thinking skills. And in the face of a lack of self-belief and trauma, we can unlock self-development, self-actualization, and healing. And in the face of unemployment, we can create skills development and work experience, which can lead to greater employability, not just in the arts, but in fact across all sectors. And in the face of poor and failing education, we can reignite curiosity, we can trigger a desire to learn how to learn, and we can start to develop the tools that are needed for 4IR. Now, I want to finish where we began, which is with Kuleka. You remember I introduced you to Kuleka at the beginning. In 2016, Kuleka was part of one of our mentorship programs called Inspiring a Generation, which is an artist mentorship program, and which identifies young artists who have a potential and spends a year mentoring them to develop new work. Kuleka was then connected to an international community of playwrights and other artists, and was given an opportunity to develop skills at an international exchange program at the Kennedy Center in the States. And this was a year before she released her book of poetry. And she wrote about that experience. The existence and longevity of organizations like ASATER South Africa is vital in equipping artists with the tools to become self-efficient and empowered entrepreneurs who are sustainable, and practitioners who create meaningful and transformative work that will reach audiences across the globe. Now, what I love about the story is that she herself is now mentoring young artists. Kuleka has started her mentorship program called Black Girls Live, which is mentoring young artists and continuing to pay it forward. So we really believe that if we engage with these kinds of arts interventions, we will be able to support young people to give their dreams their courage. within the context of a changing work environment and for IR. And I'll let you read those last words from Kuleka Patuma, which are just so beautiful and so triumphant.
I think she just wants.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvette. We always enjoy, having you discuss this very important topic, and for people to actually see that education is actually not one-dimensional, but then there are very different areas to education that we need to actually look at, and how we can find those balances, within the education system to not be mutually exclusive, but to be mutually inclusive. So I could actually allow you to speak on for much longer, but Mala will not, our timekeeper would not have it. But yeah, so over to you, Dr. P. Let's hear why you woke up so early this morning. Thank you. You need to unmute. Thank you.
Okay. I hope you can all see me. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning, waking up so early. I hope it will be worth the waking up. Today, I'm going to talk a bit about women in leadership, and particularly in the STEMI area. Not STEMI, the one without an A. The difference between mine and Yvette's is that mine is for the older one, not the 4IR version one. The one thing that has been identified as one that is a deterrent and probably not interesting for most young people to be in the sciences, technology, engineering, maths, and innovation is that most young girls are raised to be taught that they need to be soft, they need to be kind, they need to be gentle, and they can't speak out loud, they can't be firm, because then they are called bossy. But it's okay when boys do that, because that's how they show that they are men and there's leadership. And unfortunately, some of the behaviors and things that we are taught coincidentally create the timid women and girls that we find. On the contrary, data has shown that organizations that have got more women in representation in leadership, or even diverse within their entities, that is on boards, executive management, they regularly outperform those with a more homogeneous leadership. Despite the data that demonstrates women are good for business, organizations seeking to support women always struggle, to break the systemic barriers and cultural barriers of success. But still, most of the women do succeed in spite of the barriers. There's something that it is referred to as the broken rank for women in leadership. And what it simply means is that we all get equal opportunities to enter the workplace. Although I really don't believe that, but that's the research. It says we all get equal opportunities and to a certain extent enter the workplace in equal numbers as women and men. But as we go up the ranks, the number of women just diminishes and becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So then the question is, why are we struggling to get most of the women in the field to be in leadership, when it is shown that for those entities that have managed to get women into their leadership, or what they call the C-suites, have actually done well? A few examples is that the women, those entities achieve over 60% in their profits and their productivity. They report almost 60% of increased ability to attract and retain the women and retain talent. They report enhanced company reputation and report great innovation and openness. And those are the entities that have managed to make it easier for women to work, to make easier for mothers to have flexible working hours and not the usual 8 to 5. But I think maybe it's not all lost. I believe that the advent of COVID has actually showed us that we can work from anywhere. We don't need to be in offices. And that has given a lot of women, mothers, parents, an opportunity to strike a balance between being with your children, your family, and work. One other disturbing stat is that in 1 out of 4 individuals working in the STEM area, only 1 out of 4 is female. And 1 out of 6 is, in particular, the engineering, are women. The Microsoft actually did a study in 2018 to just see what is it that is not attractive for women and girls to join the technology space. They looked and focused mostly on the STEM, and they called it the STEM gender disparity. And they realized that 31% of the girls believe that those jobs require programming coding are not for them. Engineering is not for girls. But once they see other women and other ladies mentoring in the areas, the stats actually jumped to 58%. This is the power of mentorship, the power of being the light to those that are not in your space, for them to be able to see what they would ordinarily not see. In a world that is developing so fast, developments in science and technology are very fundamental to change the way we transact, the way we do things as a nation, even worldwide. The one thing that Yvette also mentioned in the past is that whilst we endeavor to have more female entering the STEM careers, and not just entering the STEM careers, but becoming leaders in the fields, we do not have an education system that is fit for purpose. We just educate for the sake of educating, follow a curriculum that has been followed forever without even looking at what is needed. And I believe it is time that we train for what we need. It is time we educate kids to deliver what we need as a nation and as a country. The National Development Plan has got so many stats as to what we need to achieve when it comes to higher education. And unfortunately, we have fallen short. We have not even achieved half of that. All those targets of producing 5,000 PhDs and probably most of the 5,000 per annum being in the STEM areas has not materialized. In fact, in 2018, we only produced 1,700, which very few of those were actually in the STEM area. And South Africa has got a problem of, maybe it's not a problem, but Africa will because Africa will benefit from it, is that most of the training and the education, the R&D that we do, we tend to train more of our fellow colleagues from the rest of Africa. The numbers become dire when you start breaking the numbers to ladies or girl children who get into the STEM area. In a very short summary that I would like to provide is that it is time that we relook at our education system. Countries like Germany have long moved from just taking children through grade 1 or 0, teaching them maths, physics, English, biology, the usual subjects. But kids are being trained to be entrepreneurs from the onset. Kids are being trained to be artists from the onset. There's no reason why you should channel all the kids into the same curriculum because it's not ideal for them. And that's why we have such a high rate of unemployed graduates, because we train them and we then do not know what we want to do with them. We didn't train them for anything that we had in mind. There is no coordinated plan of our training. Our research and development is also disjointed. It is not aimed at achieving one goal as a country. And therefore we continue to fail. South Africa spends a lot of money on R&D, higher education. In fact, South Africa spends a lot of money, more than developed countries, even in our basic education. But what we get out of it is very minimal. And I think it is time we relook at our education system. The one thing as a scientist that I have seen is that there is no mentorship program for us. You go to school. For most of us, you'd even go through your postgraduate masters and you have not actually been mentored by anybody. And that really puts you on the back foot when you start working. I was fortunate. I was in a program. My BASA then insisted that before I actually graduate my master's degree, I spend a year in the field and being mentored, literally doing the real work before I could graduate my master's degree. In fact, I was actually evaluated on that year that I spent in industry. And I found that to really be helpful. And I know a lot of scientists, engineers don't have that opportunity to actually have a feel of the right work and the feel of working, doing what you have studied for, and then before you can actually start working. And I think that that is something that we have failed to do as a country. In a country that spends so much money in research, we have not and probably lost our vaccine production. And I say this because right now we have to stand in the queue with developed countries and richer countries to have the vaccination shipped to us. We are doing so dismally that when countries are vaccinating 40 out of 100 of their people, we are doing less than 4. And at the rate at which we're going to reach herd immunity will be a dream probably that will be realized in the next 5, if not 6 years. A country that has got and runs one of the largest in the world ARV programs does not still produce their key ingredients. And why aren't we doing that? Why are we not making the economy at home grow? Because that money we are spending, but we are spending it and buying our ingredients, our active ingredients for our ARVs from a company in India. That is in billions that we spend per annum for our ARV program. That's money that we could spend at home and grow the economy and grow our science and create jobs and create training for our graduates. Thank you, and that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. P, for that discussion. And I think I just have one question for you. How did you decide to get into the sciences? I know that, it's not Q&A time, but I'm just curious. Sorry, Alice. Yeah.
I have always been weird that way. When I was young, I wanted to be a medical doctor. So as I grew and went to high school, I then decided, I just felt like this is boring. I want to be challenged further. But I guess it's also lack of proper career guidance. Because now that I'm older, I know that I could have still become a medical doctor, but still be very active in research and I would not be bored. But at that point in time, all that I knew was a doctor in doctor's rooms and stuff. So I then decided that no, I want to be a geologist. And then I went for some of the sessions with Anglo American and I decided, I'm not sure if I want to do that. Then I ended up doing microbiology and biochemistry for my first degree, and I thought I would be a medical biochemist. And then I decided, no, maybe not. But what had happened is that I was thrown off balance when my final year, I was kicked out of school because I owed the university 3,000 rands. And that was purchased from Universiteit for honor base. So I packed my weekend bag and went home, heartbroken. But as it turned out, I never went back. So that's why I sometimes tell people I've done 2 first degrees because my first one, I lost it I was kicked out during exam time. That was my final year. But God had his own plan and purpose. So spent 2 years at home, not going to school. And I decided that I'm going back to school. I went back to school and started another degree, but I then decided that I'll more focus on the physics. When I finished, or just towards finishing my physics first degree, I then decided that I want to do satellite application, which is more studying the precision and the accuracy of launching weapons of mass destruction. It was not going to be weapons of mass destruction because that program we had abandoned in South Africa, but that's what it was initially. Halfway into the postgraduate diploma, I felt that I don't feel it. I then decided to quit it again, and I went to do my my postgraduate in nuclear physics. So, and then I ended up where I am, and then I pursued my master's there, started working in the nuclear energy space, and decided to do my PhD in nuclear waste minimization, and it threw me into environmental engineering and the water space. That's my life.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I just had to ask, because it just piqued my curiosity. And it relates to the poem, that I read this morning, that, you know what, you just have to keep walking. You will meet your vision and you'll find your purpose. And I'm glad that you didn't give up because, I always tell people that you're probably one of the only nuclear physicists that I know. Actually, you are, but anyway, we will not say anything. But yeah, but thanks for not giving up. And Yvette, that question is coming to you as well, because I cannot draw or do anything artistic to save my life. I don't even know how I got into the board of artists. So if you'll indulge me, guys, I know that, we are supposed to be only focusing on the topic, but I also want to just hear from Yvette, what drove you to go into the arts? And maybe you can convince someone like me to actually maybe take up a drawing class and stop drawing stickmen.
Well, I can't draw either, but I've had to learn to because the work that we do is multidisciplinary. So my love for the arts was really in theatre and acting and directing, and that was from a very young age, and was something that I was always passionate about. But I really believe that all of us are an art. We're all artists. We all are born with artistic capacities, and generally, what happens is that someone at some point tells you you can't sing, or you can't draw, or you can't whatever it is, and you start to believe that. And actually, it's simply not true. You have the capacity within you, and and this is one of the reasons why I believe it's so fundamental for education, because it's actually a natural skill set that we can use in a whole lot of different environments. But I was going to be an actress. That was my plan for my life, and it hasn't. I mean, I was an actress for some years, but I've certainly taken a different route from what the child me would have, what it would be imagining for my life now. But I'm just delighted that I have found this kind of trajectory, because I feel like it's a space to make that available to all children. So I'm very glad that I met up with Asatej in 2006 and discovered this amazing organization.
No, it is an amazing organization. And like I always joke, because, we all have mental health issues at some point. And my psychiatrist said that is because I don't actually tap into that artistic side of mine that is just there and I'm not doing anything. And that was actually the worst class that I ever had to attend, trying to do something. And I ended up just writing poems every day. And she was like, no, draw something. And speaking about singing, I was actually kicked out of the choir, I must say. So I sing to myself in my car and everybody else who cares to listen. But yeah, it is what it is. So without further ado, we will go to somebody who's also very creative in his space. And that's Mr. Alice Lavemba, who can turn anything into essential oils. I mean, I have actually started buying his products, and yeah, like my skin is actually glowing. So Alice, the alchemist, you're next. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alice Lavemba, and I'm a farmer. But I'm not your usual farmer. I'm a farmer that develop other farmers. And I'm also an entrepreneur by trade. I used to own an investment company in 2009 called Spectrum Finance. Spectrum Finance, I owned my own brokerage. It was registered with the Financial Services Board. So by trade, I'm a financial specialist and I studied marketing. So what happened was, with the financial crisis that happened in 2009 and 2010, I had to disinvest from a small company because my bigger investors felt that I might not have all the backing to secure the millions of rands that we've invested in different portfolios. So I went from a successful investment bank owner, if you may, or brokerage to bankrupt in like a couple of days. So I am where most South Africans are. I had to start over again. I had skills to start over. I had the knowledge to start over. So I wrote a plan to CEDA, and my relationship then started, working with a small enterprise development agency since then. Long story short, I headed then an incubator that I will show you. And then from there, I started to create a whole lot of exciting new products that the world has never seen. And yeah, we are teaching other people to do the same. I'm not here to say that, I am that. I've learned one quote says that if you want to become a millionaire, make others a millionaire, maybe make 1 million people millionaires, and maybe then we will become billionaires. So I'm working on that concept. So I'm going to share my slides with you. Can you bear with me? Right. Everybody can hear me, see me clearly, Chair? Can you just say before I go, I don't want to stop in the middle and people don't hear me?
I can see everything, Alice. You may continue.
Great. So I am from the South African Essential Oil Business Incubator. We're promoting inclusive economic participation through incubation. This is a little bit of a background of who we are and why we are in the space. Oils, right? Essential oils is part of the wellness economy, and the wellness economy is about $4.5 trillion market. That's just over 12 to 14 times the South African GDP. That is like, it's one sector is like 12 times our GDP, 12 to 14 times. It's a huge sector. We are operating in the big bubble there currently in personal care, beauty, and anti-aging. Everything that you see here, all those bubbles, essential oils, and agriculture has something to do with that. Agriculture, traditional complementary medicine, preventative medicine, healthy eating and nutrition and weight loss, wellness, real estate, something that South Africans are not really aware of, wellness tourism, physical activity, spa economy, and thermal mineral springs, and personal and beauty care. Every sector in the wellness, every subsector in the wellness industry has agriculture to it. So for people who think agriculture is something out there in the sun and you clog away, let me tell you something, it's a massive industry. I'm just going through this. Agriculture helps you with skincare. It helps you with hair care. It helps you with makeup, perfumes, and also hygiene. So agriculture is not just eating. We also have other sectors of agriculture, which is niche sectors. When I came into agriculture, obviously, when you know me, people will tell you I am the before and after man. Everything I see for the first time, I capture, I make it better, and I give it to you back. So this is how we found some of the essential oils. This one here is rose geranium. You Google me, you will find that my name is next to rose geranium. Some people call me Mr. Rose Geranium. I love this plant, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But this is how it was in the 2014, 2015. We developed some technology, low end, not high end, to get it where it is. Now we have a plan. We know how to plant it. So we own most of the plants that we grow. We own the mother blocks, so the mother seeds. We partnered with several nurseries to own our seedlings. We are able to teach people how to do land prep. We do our own planting, and that is not a downloaded picture. That is our pictures, ladies and gentlemen. That is our proper rose geranium farm looks. There's no weeds, there's no nothing. You can come and look at our 1 hectare farm here that we planted this year, and you will find the same scenario. We believe that we put a lot of effort in what we do. Agriculture is supposed to look beautiful so that people will be able to buy the products. And that is how we looked in 2017. So yeah, we teach people how to harvest. I'll show you. We do teach them how to steam the still. So while we are operating as a commercial business, we allow people to come in and see what we do, hoping that we can stimulate them to do exactly the same. We have our own in-house laboratory where young people are working, and that's how a proper farm supposed to look. Now, when it comes to skills transfer and mentorship, we believe that we wanted to be part of that. So we created an incubation program. We call this the Farmers Edition. And this program is focused on how to develop or developing producers. It's a 12-month skills and mentorship program, and we call this Earn While You Learn. So this one is not funded by government. The entrepreneurs are basically funding their own training. It's really a giveaway. 3,500 Rand for 4 interactions with us in person, and then with about 12 interactions online, either via Zoom or WhatsApp. It's a 12-month program. As I say, the clients come in and we show them how to go from plant to product over a period of 12 months. Yeah, and while they are doing that, we are buying the crops because they plant really, really small. Some people are living they don't have farms, they just plant in their backyard. The idea for us, a producer, when are you a producer? Are you a producer when you plant on a 5 hectare? Are you a producer when you plant on a 20 hectare? Are you a producer when you plant in your backyard? The answer to this is simply the moment you plant, you're a small scale producer. So we take away the stigma that you can only be a farmer when you are planting 20 hectares. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a runner. I'm a comrades runner. I started running 1 kilometer a day. And eventually I ended up being able to run 90 kilometers in one day. But when are you a runner? When you finish the comrades? No, you're a runner when you put on your techies and you finish your first 1 kilometer. So producers learn that we're starting small. This is one of our producers that started this journey with us in 2018. Her name is Onika Nkwe. I'll show you how far we took her. That is how her farm used to look. She saw what we did. She did it all wrong. We helped her and she rectified her mistakes. And today she's not just a farmer, but we're also developing producers into manufacturers of their own products. And allow me to play where we have brought Onika from just being a farmer to be not just a producer of high quality essential oils, but this is her now.
My name is Onika Nkwe. I'm a farmer in Brongospruit, and we produce Ikete products from our essential oils. We have geranium on our farm, and we are able to use the oil made out of the plants for these beautiful products. We have body butter, which has anti-aging properties in it, so they'll be nice for your body skin. We have bath salts for those who like to relax. The scent of the rose geranium, when you're having a bath, it's very beautiful. You will love it, and it will give you that relaxation whilst at the same time working on your muscles. For those who don't go for bath salts, we have a shower oil. It's very nice because at the end of your shower, the oil has moisturized the skin as well, and the scent is also beautiful. So please catch us online on our website, www.iketlenaturals.com, and you will get our Facebook and Instagram addresses on it. Thank you.
So as you could see that she became part of this program after she's been a farmer. She became part last year of our beauty and personal care program. And this year we then train manufacturers to develop their own program products. This is also a 12-month skills and mentoring program. So we're not just talking in a class, we go the next level. This girls here that I will show you is Shay Glory. They are young girls, postgraduates. They were unemployed and they came to us with the product that they have developed. And then we decided, to help them with a program that is funded together with the Department of Science and Innovation, CSR, ARC, and a few other stakeholders. So you basically find that is Shay Glory. They went from there till there. Now they are no more unemployed, but they're employing themselves. And let me give you their story.
Hi, my name is Ernele Laka. I'm co-founder of Share Glory.
And I'm Diruetsang Selete, also co-founder of Share Glory.
This is our marula oil range, which consists of 100% luxury marula oil, facial cleanser, and a facial cream.
Our products are great for skin because they are rich in vitamins A, E, and C, oleic acids, and amino fatty acids.
It assists in the production of collagen, great for all skin types, even acne-prone skin, because it's a very light oil and absorbs easily into your skin and doesn't clog your pores.
All right, I'm not going to play the whole video just for my time so that I can go to the others. So you could see that we basically not just training them, we helping them, assisting them. And when they leave our program, they are well-rounded entrepreneurs. We also now have a program where we placed postgraduates. It's a 10-month skills and mentorship program. This program basically focuses on scientists. As the doctor earlier alluded, that, you know, sometimes you finish, you go to your master's and you had no real hands-on experience. So this lady is nothing different from that. When they walk in here, they did not know, you know, how to really operate the equipment within a lab. So this is what we are doing in our lab. We do real research to solve real problems. So we are not talking, this is a tomato plant that is suffering with mildew or powdery mildew. You could see there on the far right that the powdery mildew has really subsided and the plant survived and it's growing. So we do that type of research with the products that we develop in agriculture. That's a fully equipped lab. Our students come in here. It's one of the best labs in the country. They come in here and they work on real life challenges using essential oils and a lot of other agricultural produce in order to be able to solve South African problems. You know, that's a density meter over there. That's a polarity meter over there. So we really allow these children to come in and work, not just to become just numbers within the science field, but to become specialists. We also have an internship program where we adopt 5 to 8 interns from the agricultural sector per annum via AgriCita. And when they leave the program, these guys know the entire value chain of essential oils. They're not just planting, they know marketing, they know the value of oils, they know how to extract. And some of them go and start their own little bit of essential oil farming. We also teach them how to extract, agro-process the produce. They do steam distillation. They do their own oil separation. That's a beautiful green oil over there. And this is my team. My team, besides the fact that I'm almost 50, all my team members are under 35. I have developed my own managers. Kirsten was a receptionist when she came to me. Robert was an intern when he came to me. He's now the development technical head, and he's doing his master's. She's doing a B degree. Tumi is a technical development officer. He used to stand on the corners waiting for part-time jobs. He's the youngest black steam distill operator in the country, and all of them are under 35. And that is why I believe that when you do proper skills transfer, proper mentorship, you can get people into a place where they can work and teach others or train the trainers. Basically, I don't want to go into my products as I don't want to waste my time on that. If my timekeeper can just allude to me how much time I have, and I can go, Mala. So in order for you to understand why we are excited in what we do, we are entrepreneurs ourselves. So this is my company. It's essentially Africa. I create my own market. So when it looks to the producers produce products, the scientists that test our products, we own the value chain. We have developed our own value chain, transformed value. Let us put it, transformed the value chain within the essential oil industry. We own the plants, we own the production facilities, we own the laboratory. We train people to be producers. We train people to test. So now our first 2 test labs or test rats would be young girls that will have their masters, they will do their PhD. So we will test our own essential oils for this industry. We also have our own cosmetic producers. You saw 2 of them. We have about 20 of them, ladies and gentlemen. And we also part of that process. So we then create import and export opportunities for our people. That's some of our own products that come from our own plants that we have planted. So basically, it's all natural, no harmful. That is essential oils. That is liquid tea. The first liquid tea in the country comes from plants locally developed. We're also now in a process to turn, this is a wheat, turning wheat into high value products. This is Kakibos. It's a new tea coming out. So when our clients work with us, we show them that we turn crap into wealth alongside mentoring them how to do this. While we do this, we make money and we ignite them. We have the first ever liquid spice in South Africa. It's already being pending the trademarks and all that. So liquid spice, you're going to spray it over. There's nothing like this in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, and that is what we do. You can visit us also at essentialafrica.co.za and start buying. While you buy, you help us developing people locally. So in a nutshell, that is what we do. Skills transfer, incubation, and also mentorship can really help this country creating that much needed employment, also train people how to become employers, and in that process, we could really stand head and shoulders above our competitors in the rest of the world. If we believe in ourselves long enough, we as South Africans can do that. And ladies and gentlemen, that's basically us here at COB. Thank you so much.
Hi, Alice. I think, like what I love about you is that the last time you actually did this presentation, you said you're working yourself out of a job, and it really takes a lot of confidence,
Yes.
to be able to grow people without actually being afraid, because that means that you're very self-assured and you know why you're here. And I do think that you would find the poem as well apt that I read this morning, that you first you start talking to your vision, and then after a while you're actually talking from it.
Lost you there for a
And
while.
that is what we need from people. We need people to be so confident that they're not afraid to share. We need people to be so confident in themselves that they can create 100 other people like them, and they're not afraid that they will take their markets, but instead 1 million.
Okay, I think she's back. So while she's coming back, I shared that we were planning to work myself out of a job. So when I met Robert Malachi, he came in his 20s, and he said to me, I like what you do. I want your job. And I said, okay, you challenge me, you can have my job, but then I would have to teach you everything that I do. I love this young man. He's turning 35 this year. We are born on the same day, 11 of October. I've never met him before. And Kirsten Mount came into my organization at the age of 23, just as a receptionist. She's a financial specialist by now. And we also have a designer that's not here yet. He become part of the program next year. So Jovan and then the research lady, that out of those three, we will select one that will take over the laboratory. And those four will become my four managers as I hope to step down at the end of next year. I'm resigning in October this year. Hopefully I'll give 12 months notice and just giving them over the company. I will work on my beauty and personal care, but they will run a world-class business incubator. And I'm hoping they will do exactly the same as I have done for other young people, bringing them in and not just training them, but really purposefully training them, hoping that they could also, train the next generation. Thank you.
Amazing stuff, Alice. Thank you so much. And that is what we are about. We are about paying it forward so that we can create, more people that will also want to pay it forward. And yeah, and we thank God for you and for the work that you're doing. Next up is Mr. Mabete, who's our legal specialist. Also one of the people that inspire me daily. That's why I actually begged him to be my mentor. And he gladly obliged, because I love surrounding myself with people that are smart, but if they're smarter than me, like that's actually a bonus. So Mr. Mabete, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Anastasia, and greetings to the panelists as well as to all those who are listening or watching as we are deliberating on what I believe is an essential discussion for the country. This is not just for us, but it's our little contribution to the country. My contribution for today is more about policies and legal framework that provides opportunities for both employers and the young people. That's my contribution. Most of the time, people see things happening. They don't know how they started and where they started and why certain things are not being done in a manner that they should be done. I've worked with the Department of Higher Education and Training. I've worked with a few sitters in terms of me advising and drafting documents, assisting even with issues of training at that level. And I've noticed that when the country moved from the NSDS, National Skills Development Strategy 2, to National Skills Development Strategy 3, one of the key issues that were being considered was the difference between the strategies. One of the key differences was that NSDS 2 was targeting numbers. And then NSDS 3 had to correct the issues because there was no visible contribution to the economy. As the skills, you see, the whole SITA system is an international system that basically originates from the International Labour Organization. But when it gets implemented in different countries, or those countries that implement it, they do their own modifications. In our country, we focused more on reporting on numbers that so many people went through the SITA system, whatever, without looking as to whether those people actually benefited. You know, so NSDS 3, in fact, when NSDS 3 was launched, the then Minister, Dr. Blade Nzimande, who is now back anyway to the same department, although it's modified. In launching the NSDS 3, amongst others, he said, we must also address the challenges of skills shortages and mismatches we face as a country and improve productivity in the economy. This is what he said. And then he went further to say, for our country to achieve high levels of economic growth and address our social challenges of poverty and inequality, we must work together to invest in education and training and skills development to achieve our vision of a skilled and capable workforce to support an inclusive growth path. This is what he said. In fact, it's in the foreword of the NSDS 3 document. Clearly, some of you, in fact, I've also looked at the comments coming from the summit. There's a comment about mismatch in the comments. And I thought, yeah, it's true. That mismatch is still there. And it's a question of what is it that we really want to do? Do we really want to capacitate the country to be able to be self-sufficient, stop the social grants, get the social grants to be for only the old people who retired without pensions, and get every young and able person to be able to generate his or her own income and get the pride that is associated with self-sufficiency. Now, fast forward to 2020. There's a new, it's not called strategy, now it's called a plan. It's called NSDP 2030. Now, when the minister who was launching the NSDP 2030, which was Minister Naledi Pandor, as she briefly took over as the Minister of Higher Education and Training. When she launched the NSDP 2030, she said, the NSDP is key to enabling government and social partners to contribute towards economic growth, employment creation, and social development. I think what we need to understand is that it's not just the statements that matter, it's how things get done. You know, in 2011, there was a National Skills Development Accord, National Skills Accord, which listed 8 commitments. I'm not going to go through the 8 commitments, But I just want to mention what I consider as key, and some of them are even relevant to the comments that we received in the previous, in the skills summit. One of them is to expand the level of training using existing facilities more fully. Improve the funding of training and use of funds available for training and incentives on companies to train. Improve SETA governance and financial management, as well as stakeholder involvement. Maybe let me just, one of the comments from the Skills Summit is that the SETAs are corrupt. That's a comment. This doesn't come from me. If you read those comments that that come from the Skills Summit, is that the SETAs are corrupt. My experience, having worked with both the SETAs as well as with some SETAs, as well as the department itself, specifically the branch, the skills branch, is that we have a challenge where the skills branch, I don't know now, I haven't worked with them for a few years, but my experience is the branch that does not seem to be fully capacitated to provide the monitoring and oversight for the SETAs. That's a starting point. But then the second point would be that when the employers, in fact, the stakeholders, let's take key stakeholders, the unions, as well as the employers. When those also don't consider the skills space as something that they must consider as critical for the country, then you have a problem. You know, you have a problem. In fact, the people who run the SETAs, it's both the employers and the organized labor. And these are the people who are supposed to be driving the situation in such a way that every person, remember, a stakeholder, I don't need to be registered with a SETA to be a stakeholder. But if I am I'm an employer or I'm unemployed, or even if I am employed, I need to be upskilled. So the whole country constitutes stakeholders, and how each of us participate in the SETA system will determine how the SETAs get to do what they should be doing. And also in terms of spending, not spending just for the purposes of reporting that we have spent the money, but spending to make sure that each cent is accounted for value in the economic development of the country, because that's what the SETA system is about: economic development and empowering of the workforce. So there's also one of the commitments on the National Skills Accord is align the training to the new growth path and improved sector skills plans. You know, when you look at the how sector skills plans are developed by the companies that develop them, a lot of those companies employ consultants to come up with a document that is basically tick the box. At least I'm aware that some of the people who are part of this session are aware of the fact that there are experiences where you get to be in a sector and you get told that there are only 2 people in the country who are able to do a particular responsibility that relates to the entire sector. But then when you look at all the employers who have submitted the sector skills plans, they don't mention that that is a scarce and critical skill. Now, the only reason why that's the case is because there's no connection or lack of connection between the people who are actually running the organizations and those who are actually developing their sector skills plans. You know, the sector skills plans need to be taken so seriously by those who are developing. And they are responsible not only for themselves. Now we're talking about 4IR. And I can assure you that there will be very few companies other than those in the technology space who would consider the 4IR requirements as critical. And then there's to improve the role and performance of the FET colleges. Maybe before I deal with this part, I would like to invite any person who has got a child or who had a child or who went through an FET or what is now called the TVET colleges, just to reflect on the experience even in the chat, because I've come across people who would say, I've finished. I've done my 4 years at an FET college. I don't have a piece of paper to show for it because the FET college said I must go and get work experience. And when I have the work experience, I can come back for a certificate. And there's not even a letter that comes from an FET college to possible employers to say this learner has completed ABC and all the person needs now is 1, 2, 3 and mentorship. And with that, the person can be in a position to get the certificate. So, and as a result, the experiences get to be discouraging, whilst in fact, the idea is meant to be very positive. You know, so we have those challenges. When we say we want to improve, we must really want to improve. In fact, there are people I am aware of who have been advocating that, in fact, the FET colleges need to be adopted by different sectors. You know, an FET college, that, for instance, that is in a forestry-dominated area like Mpumalanga, the forestry companies that are operating in Mpumalanga need to adopt the FET colleges there. And where there is a mining area, the mining companies need to adopt the FET colleges. They need the TVET colleges now. They need to be part of the planning for the content. And they also need to take every learner. In fact, even the process that is being followed is not necessarily the process that should be followed, because every year, a learner from an FET college is supposed to be exposed to practical training and be mentored before that learner moves to the next year. So that come the final year, that learner is able to get the certificate without having to be released to roam around looking for something they don't know how to find it. Now, we also have the Skills Development Act and the grant regulations. See, the Skills Development Act provides for different opportunities, you know, that where you have your learnership, you have your internship. In fact, there's even your gainful employment that should at least be known by every employer, including the small guys. You see, if I get exposed to work, remember, a person who's running a tuck shop has a lot of things that he or she is doing that ShopRite is doing. So you don't need ShopRite to be exposed in the retail space, at least for a start. So even the smallest of the operators should be able to play their role in skills development and mentorship. And in that process, they will get extra people, warm bodies to help them, whilst at the same time, they are contributing to economic development of the country. So, and if that process was to be followed, you can imagine. And in fact, in 2011, one SETA had about 150,000 employers registered with it. And there were less than 200 of those employers that were participating in the SETA system. if each of those employers was to take 3 young people, can you multiply 150,000 by 3? And that means that that's practically at least the number of people who would be taken off the unemployment line. Take the whole country, the situation would be different. So what needs to be done? I think what needs to be done is that we need proper sector skills plans. There should be a proper analysis of what the country needs. We need to involve the small to medium-sized companies. In fact, my understanding is that if I recall reading stats, is that about 70% of the economy of the country is practically generated through small to medium-sized companies. See, get them involved from the design of the content, you know? And then we need pairing. The pairing between learners, the unemployed, it is extremely important because it also gives confidence. It helps people to understand that it's possible. We need to engage the NGOs to assist the sitters to find both the unemployed youth as well as the prospective learners, and every operating business in the country, so that those people can be asked at least to come accommodate 1 or 2 young people, you know? And then we also need to review the Skills Development Levies Act, particularly Section 4, paragraph A, that provided exemptions to provincial and the national government from contributing to the skills fund. A lot of money, over, I don't know how many thousands are employed, millions, or in fact, at least there's over 1 million people employed by provincial and national government. And can you imagine how much money would be collected if those people were making their contribution to this space, and that money moving to those who really need it to develop themselves? Instead of being paid as social grants. And government must provide for more training. You read the municipality reports, there a lot of them is appalling. Look at the reports of the AG. But those municipalities have the opportunity of accommodating young people. Very performance would improve, whilst at the same time, the community would be getting what they deserve, proper service delivery. So I think the main challenge that we have as a
Shoot, no, it's gone completely off. Just check it. Mr. Mabete, please check your Wi-Fi.
It's, this year is 20 years ago, when a young lady who is definitely listening to this, is part of this webinar today, visited my office and attended a firm in town in Pretoria, and she wanted articles. And the office manager approached me, and I said, you know, we don't have space for more people to do articles. And then she left. She came back the following day, and she said, I want to see Mr. Mabete. And the reason why I want to see Mr. Mabete is because I want to talk to him. I was here yesterday. I understand I'm no longer looking for articles. And then I allowed her in, and she said, Mr. Mabete, I want to volunteer. You said you don't have a space for articles, but I want to volunteer. And you know, my energy was just drained because I couldn't say, no, you can't volunteer. I said, okay, that will find space for you. And she, in 3 months, she worked so hard. In fact, she was sort of competing with the candidate attorneys. And we decided, well, let's register her as a candidate attorney as well. And this is basically the call that I'm making to young people. Don't take no for the answer. Don't blame old people for whatever decision that they make. Make your effort as well. And in the process, you will definitely find people who are receptive to take you to where you want to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mabete, for that inspiring presentation. And, you know, I do hope that we have some representatives here or people that can give feedback, you know, to the lawmakers and the CETAs about the impact that they could have, you know, on reducing unemployment. Because we also, as a company, try to actually involve ourselves in the CETA program and obtain graduates who are actually looking for employment. It's not such an easy process, I must say, because even if you have space for somebody to learn, you know, if the process is cumbersome, it really makes it a bit difficult for someone to actually reach out and try and assist other people. And that's why we as a company are actually now looking into creating our own incubator for unemployed law graduates, you know, so that we can train them in the specialized skills that we have as a practice, because you would know, Mr. Mabete, as a law practitioner and a corporate law specialist, that we are expected to only practice in certain areas of law, either standing at the corridors of court and waiting for a client, you know, and living on a day-by-day basis. But once you start wanting to specialize in certain areas such as aviation law or corporate law or commercial law, you know, it almost seems like the yardstick is or rather the goalposts are so high. So for me personally, you know, it's my passion to not only live for myself, but also to create other people that can say, yes, I do specialize in aviation law, or yes, I do specialize in competition law. And it's up to the CETAs as well, you know, to encourage businesses to take people in and ensure that those skills can really mean something and really be transferred. With that, I think we need to go to the chat box, which has actually been quite busy. I see some of the questions relate to the discussions that Ellis had. I'm going to try and scroll back as far as possible. But I also want, if people want to raise their hands and maybe ask the question directly to a panelist, you're also more than welcome. We have about 10 minutes for you to ask those questions. But I will read some of the comments in the meantime whilst you're deciding whether you want to raise a hand and actually be brave enough to ask the question to the panelists. And I'll be reading them as panelists. Please feel free to take the questions as they come through. The first one is a comment from Lindu Msiza. She says, I think this was during Yvette's presentation. This is a much needed program in schools. Children's creativity encouraged a space and platform for inspiration and innovation. And Sepostol was asking if it's possible to have access to this presentation. Yvette has agreed to share. We will send it to you. Charmaine Meyer, thank you so much for being one of our, you know, super fans and always making sure that you support our webinars. Charmaine just says that she agrees with Lindue. And then Faith Hadebe says, you hit the nail on the head. Our education system does not address any of the challenges we face as a country. Ivan Steenkamp says, great discussion. Well done, a good way to start the day so early. And then Rick Amanshaw, I hope I'm spelling, I'm saying the name correctly. Hi, Yvette, excellent presentation. It is deeply concerning that the arts, especially the performing arts, is not treated with the critical importance that it deserves. Creativity is the heart and soul of a nation. Continue to do this noble work and know that it is valuable and appreciated. Oh, Lindy says, Anastasia, you are an artist. Okay, I guess writing is also art, yes. I accept, maybe, like I said, I must just give up on drawing and accept it for what it is. And also, I just want to go, this one is for Ellis. Ellis, please share information about the organic market that you host. Ellis, do you want to tell us a little bit about the organic market where you invite vendors to come and share their goods? If you'll do so, please.
Yes, so thank you again. The organic market was born out of desperation from our SMMEs that we have developed. People like Onika, young people like Orinile and Dudu. They now had products, but the shops were closed and they could not sell. So what we have done is that we invited all local producers of organic products, and we created something that we call the wellness market. The wellness market then basically hosting local producers. We'd go out and market their products and what they would have very, very professionally, you know, showcasing them upfront, show the type of products they will have an exhibition or on a market day. Then we allow people to come. Remember, we are on a small holding, so the setting is also nice. It's open, it's free. There's a free entrance. People have an opportunity to look at our gardens, our sidecats. We play music, we invite artists. To come. We pay those artists to perform live for us that morning. And we then allow trade to happen. So on a day like that, you know, we have seen sales between 30 and 50,000 rand for the morning, you know, for small, on a small market. It's not yet that well presented all over South Africa. Pretoria, obviously, and a little bit of Johannesburg people come through. So we created an opportunity to, you know, for people to cross pollinate with each other, interacting with what type of products they have, what is not working and what is working. So the organic market is an exciting market where you come and see young people selling high value, high quality products, some of it that you can only get at the wellness market. And we're excited that our children, our young people, our youth, especially women, have an opportunity then to sell and to take care of themselves. And that is what the wellness market is about. So we are not asking for markets or looking for markets or facilitating markets, but we are creating markets. And we hope that we will continuously do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice. This one relates to the comments that Mr. Mabetto was talking about, where he asked that if you had a child who attended FET or TVET institutions, please share your experiences, even if it's a relative, a sibling. You know, if you want to share experiences, please post them into the chat box, or you're welcome to just raise your hand and then we'll unmute the mic for you so that you're able to also just contribute to the discussion. We have a comment here from Pumzilo, says, my younger sister was told by her college that they cannot find her academic record. I don't even know how to answer that. I think, Mr. Mabetto, when you're ready, you can maybe just comment on that. The other one talks about learnership do not allow a student who is registered to participate in the program. And then also, there is also a, can we talk about the DHET backlog in printing the FET college certificates? The poor FET students don't get to graduate and enjoy the pride that comes with graduation. Charmaine Mayer says she agrees that people should not take no for an answer. We also have a comment from Viraj, and thank you so much, Viraj, when you're saying valuable information shared by all presenters. I would like to join the specialized training sector of Mashobane Advisory as a trainer of mediation and communication skills for recently graduated law students. That's awesome. Opening the door for consideration of including ADR in legal practice, keeping up with global practices. You actually raise a very important point, because, you know, the court system is so expensive and cumbersome. We should actually be teaching people to specialize in ADR and make it normal for people to consider that as an option of dispute resolution. So we will definitely be in contact with you and explain to you how this this process works within our advisory. And also we are working in collaboration with all the panelists here, you know, to actually talk, to actually form a sort of thought leadership forum. And we will maybe allow Alice to give him 2 or so minutes to just tell you a little bit about the idea that we're having, but it's still a work in progress, but we would love to have somebody like you on board. Togozile Hadebe says, I'm truly inspired and grateful for this webinar, food for thought that resonates with me. When we say we want to improve, we must really want to improve, from Mr. Lungile Mabetto. So thank you so much, Togozile, for sharing that comment. I know that this panel, actually, we all want to make sure that we stick to time. So I'm going to give each panelist just a minute, you know, just to wrap up, and then just maybe one thought, you know, that you want to leave the attendees with. I will start with Yvette. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anastasia. I mean, I think that what's really come through today in all the presentations is just what extraordinary work is happening on the ground in many different places. And what I'm excited about is the proposal that has been made for a forum which can move across the sectors and which can really bring all thought leaders together in this space as how we deal with youth unemployment and the challenges that are being faced, but ensure that we equip our young people to turn this country around. You know, I think that we have the capacity and the skills, and we have the examples of projects, and we really just need to upscale those. We need to work together to ensure that we're able to create a kind of cohesive environment, a real ecosystem that is functional for youth development. So I'm very excited about this group of people. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share some ideas today.
Thank you so much, Yvette, for your time as well. I know that you're quite busy, but the fact that you always, you know, are available, you know, to us to discuss and to share ideas, it's really appreciated. Then next is Dr. P.
Thank you, Anastasia, and thank you to all the participants and fellow panelists and to Mashobane advisories. For me, is together we can do more of good things. We need to stick together and do it ourselves. No one is gonna come and do it for ourselves. And I look at this initiative as one of those, and when we are many, we can achieve more rather than when one person is trying to do something. Of course, my default as usual, I would like to see a lot of crazy ladies out there breaking barriers in fields that were never open for them and are not for them, and still are struggling to make headways into those fields. We need more ladies in boardrooms. We need more ladies in every space. I mean, after all, we make more than 50% of the population. So why not make 50% of everything else? Thank you very much. And I hope this is just the beginning of the many good sessions and good adventures and successes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. P. Alice, can we hear from you, your thoughts?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for everybody, the attendees that have come and listened to us this morning. Guys, I wrote on 3 days ago on my Facebook page where I do my daily motivation, if I can stop one person not to give up, my life will not have been in vain. And that is what I come to do here. I try to motivate you that whether you have lost it all, you can start again. Whether you cannot get in, we will teach you how to, you know, to knock on doors. And if the doors doesn't want to open, we show you that you can build your own house with your own doors for everybody else to come in. And that is why I'm part of this, you know, collectively with people. Most of the panelists I don't know personally, I've never met them before. And we share the same passion, is to create opportunities for other people Yes, I regard myself as fortunate because I can take care of my family, but how can I sleep at night knowing that there could be some professional or some innovative person out there that just need a nudge into the right direction in order to, for him or her to also take care of their families. And that is what we do. This is a human action, addressing and to move into the right direction, collectively addressing one of the major problems in South Africa, and that is unemployment. And we say we can do it through skills transfer, through incubation, and through mentorship. So this panel is created for that. I believe this is the first of its kind in the country, and I hope that some of the attendees, that if you are a specialist, if you are a professional and you want to become part of this process, where I think Anastasia, who birthed this concept, would then allow you in as a panelist. I've asked the senior or executive manager of CEDA to join us in the next session as a panelist. He agreed that he would do that. So for us, we can only do this. We have unusual problems in the country. So our actions is supposed to be unusual action. And this is one of those things where you get up in the morning and you know that the time that you invested into people, it's time well spent. And I will do this every single morning, because if I give 1 hour of my time, I will never be able to get it back. It's part of my life that I give away. But what a way to give your life away in this manner. Thank you.
Amen, Alice. Thank you so much. Mr. Mabete?
I don't know if I should deal with the two questions that you mentioned first, or do I just get to my comments?
I think let's wrap up. We will, what we'll do is we'll send responses, written responses to those comments.
All right, no, that's fine then, thank you. I think let's thank Mashobane Advisory for organizing the webinar, and also thank the attendees. You know, what people have learned today is going to remain with them. You cannot unlearn it. All what is required of you to do is to act. At least act for yourself, act for others, and act for the country towards the direction that we have actually shared with the attendees. And more can be done and still need to be done. At some stage, I thought I will also be addressing the issue of community colleges, particularly as contained in the post-school white paper. But I realized that I was running out of time. But I think it's a matter that will be taken up one day. But I would ask people to just check what the post-school white paper says about community colleges, the idea of each one trains one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see there's a few comments asking about the, mentorship. I omitted to say that we actually have a mentorship program, and Dr. P is the patron of that mentorship program. So if you want to know more, there is a Q&A at the end of the session that will be sent to all the attendees. Please just reach out to us at info@mashobaneadvisory.co.za. You can also go onto our website, www.mashobaneadvisory.co.za. We will then make sure that we can send whatever questions or comments or connect requests to the panelists. And as Ella said, this is really the beginning of something great. We are not a group of talkers, we are a group of doers. So, and we're not just doing this for South Africa, but for the rest of the continent. That's why I have some guests that are attending from, from our neighboring states. And and that is it. It's not just about being isolated here in South Africa. It's about Africa as a whole, because we are one big community. And watch the space of doers. We're not talkers. We're definitely doers. And just to close off, I know I started with a poem, and I would like to close off with a, just something that I read and I want to share with everybody on this line. It says, Remember, the most important thing is not what's happening out there. What is primary is your state of consciousness at this moment. That determines what form the future will take. So the important thing is to realize that what happens to you is much less important than how you respond to what happens. That determines the way forward in your life. And this is from Eckhart Tolle. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Like I said, you can reach us and you'll get the information for the panelists if you want to send us topics that you want us to cover in future. But we do this every second Thursday morning at 7:30. And watch out for this panel. We are doers. We are doers. And yeah, with that, I'd like to say namaste, a beautiful day to you all. Touch one life and you will see how good you'll feel. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.